Chapter 59. Li Jingjing was stunned, and her face was immediately flushed. Big brother Yang, what did you say? Yang Chen realized that his phrasing was imprecise, and smiled. What I meant was, for you to go to the changing room, and I will have them send the chosen clothes to you. Try on every set, then choose the one you think looks the best on you and show it to me. Li Jingjing breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing the surrounding sales smiling at her, she truly wanted to dig a hole in the ground and hide her face. After Li Jingjing was brought into the changing room, Yang Chen walked a few rounds around the ladies' department at lightning speeds, and took out several sets of clothes that he remembered. Furthermore, he matched the clothes and let a sales lady send it into the changing room. Several sales ladies saw Yang Chen dazzlingly match up 5 sets of clothes, and were extremely shocked. Since they were able to work in a shop like this with a big brand name, they naturally had an eye for fashion and beauty. Yang Chen's choices for matching obviously weren't randomly chosen. Although they didn't see how Li Jingjing looked after putting those on, they all understood that the chosen clothes definitely suited her. This miss is really blessed to have such a caring boyfriend like you, mister. A sales lady sincerely spoke. Yang Chen didn't explain anything, and just smiled as he shook his head. The other lady curiously asked, Mister, are you a designer? Or a figure specialized in the fashion industry? You seem extremely familiar with our brand, Balenciaga. I have some friends that are relatively knowledgeable in this field, all I have is the tip of the iceberg. Yang Chen replied. This was the truth. When all was said and done, Balenciaga could only be considered a mid-high level brand. The tailoring of the clothes weren't even a complex fashion design. Due to his many years of experience with those old chaps, analyzing an ordinary foreign brand like this wasn't difficult at all. When women pursue beauty, they become extremely careful and patient, therefore men are bound to wait for quite some time before seeing the finished product that went through utmost care. In about half an hour, Yang Chen and the other sales ladies had chatted until they nearly brought up childhood stories of wetting the bed before Li Jingjing shyly walked out from the changing room. When everybody looked over, they subconsciously held their breath, and were speechless. The girl's ponytail was already let down with her soft straight hair cascading onto her chest which slightly covered those enchanting cheeks that were drunkish red from shyness, while her fresh and delicate face suddenly seemed extremely captivating and attractive. The white strapless dress leveled perfectly with her arm, with natural creases on the chest, and lacy patterns extending from her elegant waist down to the ends of her tutu skirt. The skirt covered by gauze appeared to be light gold under the lights, causing the exquisitely smooth and white legs to seem extremely warm with luster. A pair of fashionable white sandals wrapped around the pair of fair feet, and her adorable toes were exposed to the air. Li Jingjing's figure could be classified as a young innocent beauty from a small family. It wasn't exaggerated anywhere, not overly small or skinny, the shoulders and cheeks were perfect shaped, and it is said that fresh water brings out the naturally sculptured hibiscus. The girl's unique fresh and pure elegant aura finally revealed itself without any restraints. Oh my god, how can an effect like this be brought out from our store's clothes? The salesperson found it hard to believe, and subconsciously sighed as she praised. Li Jingjing noticed everybody staring at her in a daze. While feeling shy and happy, the girl's natural love for beauty made her unable to resist spinning a circle. With a hopeful expression she asked Yang Chen, Big brother Yang, how do I look? You are gorgeous, my princess. TL, was in English. Yang Chen smiled, and stooped down to make a knight's greeting. Li Jingjing was an English teacher, and obviously knew the meaning behind those words. The joy in her heart made her completely forget to wonder why Yang Chen knew English. She could only feel that her heart was about to leap out of her chest, and her body turning into a little bird that could fly. I accept your praise, my knight. TL, was in English. Li Jingjing raised the ends of her skirt, and happily returned the greeting. A salesperson came forward, and enviously smiled saying, Miss, can you let us take a photo of you, as the most beautiful memory of our shop? Li Jingjing hesitated for a moment. Actually, she only wanted to hear Yang Chen's praise. As for taking a photo for others to see, she was very shy about it, so she looked towards Yang Chen with an enquiring expression. Of course it's all right, our teacher Li is a beauty, there's nothing to be afraid of. Yang Chen encouraged. Then all right. Li Jingjing calmly smiled and agreed. After the few salespersons took a few photos in great delight, young Chen had them bring out all of the clothes he chose before, and said, "I'll buy all of these, help me calculate the total price." At this moment, Li Jingjing had already taken off the dress, and changed into a pure white blouse with dark brown jean shorts that was easier to move around in. Her pair of long, smooth, and beautiful white legs that were exposed to the air appeared more vivacious, and gave off a feeling of boldness and sexiness. Hearing Yang Chen say that he would buy everything, she couldn't help but cry out in alarm, "Big brother Yang, there's no need to buy all of them." Yang Chen smiled and said, "It's not like you're only going to dress up like this once, you can't possibly be wearing the same thing every time you go for a gathering with those people, right?" Li Jingjing still felt that it was a waste to spend so much, but didn't know what to say. "Don't worry miss, you supplied our shop with such a beautiful feature photo, we will sell these at half price." The sales lady kindly smiled and said, "Originally it's over $6,400, but this time we will gift you, our guests 3 sets, and only collect $3,000. To Yang Chen $3,000 was indeed inexpensive, and he immediately swiped his card to make the payment. Yet Li Jingjing instead felt regretful. $3,000 was about her salary for half a month. She suspected that the cost of all her clothes combined since childhood didn't even reach $3,000, yet today $3,000 were spent buying clothes for her. "Alright, my princess, it's getting late. Right now many people are getting off work, and the traffic will be heavy. When we reach Heavenly Province it should be around 6 p.m., let's go." After Li Jingjing firmly made the decision to pay Yang Chen back in the future, she pushed those thoughts behind, and happily held Yang Chen's hand as they left the store. But just as the two were about to enter the elevator, Li Jingjing's phone rang, and she picked up the phone. With a burdened expression she spoke, "I'm sorry Group Leader Zhang, I had some matters to attend to with my brother this afternoon, my brother is now going over with me. Thank you for your good intentions." Waiting till she hung up the phone, Li Jingjing apologetically smiled and said, "That was my English group leader calling, today's gathering is organized by him. He said he went to school to pick me up but I wasn't there, and I told him you were going there with me, and he approved. That group leader of yours was a man, right?" Yang Chen's ears were sensitive, and could obviously tell that the man's voice on the phone was somewhat unhappy. "Yep." Li Jingjing lowered her head. "Is he wooing you?" Yang Chen playfully asked. Li Jingjing hurriedly shook her head, and spoke in a panicked manner, "There's nothing between him and me, big brother Yang, I even distributed the flowers he gave me to the other female teachers, one for each person." Yang Chen didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. The girl's cute thoughts made him extremely tempted to pinch her cheeks. "I think you're the one who shouldn't let your imaginations run wild. Let's go, don't let them wait for too long." Chapter 60. As Yang Chen expected, the sky was already dim and it was nearly 6 p.m. when they arrived at Heavenly Province even though he constantly overtook other cars on the road. Li Jingjing didn't feel anything inappropriate about that. Throughout the whole journey, she sat at the front wearing a smile, and secretly glanced at Yang Chen from time to time. It was unknown what she had on her mind. "All the times that you rain on my parade." Heavenly Province's main entrance seemed incredibly imposing, and the dazzling splendor of the neon lights made all of the surrounding bars and nightclubs look inferior in comparison. The several huge flamboyant words that were lit up stole gazes even from far. "And all the clubs you get in using my name." Li Jingjing clung onto Yang Chen's arm immediately after she got off the car, and followed him through the main entrance with a perturbed expression. She, who had always been a well-behaved girl, would get scared even if she saw a place like this in a movie. Once she thought about how she was going to party with the other teachers in this place, and she was the main attraction, she began to feel a little dread in her heart. "You think you broke my heart, oh girl, for goodness sake. Don't worry, it's actually not a big deal, just think of it as having a meal together in a small restaurant." Yang Chen consoled. "You think I'm crying, oh my oh, well I ain't." Li Jingjing nodded. As she breathed she could smell the scent of the man beside her, and subconsciously, her heart became much calmer. "And I didn't wanna write a song cause I didn't want anyone thinking I still care, I don't." After entering the main entrance, a female receptionist wearing a fiery red kippah walked towards them and inquired, "Honored guests, do you have an appointment?" "But, you still hit my phone up and baby I be moving on." Li Jingjing, who had lost focus, only now recalled the location of the party. It's a room named Scarlet Kaffir Lily. And I think you should be something I don't wanna hold back, maybe you should know that. The female receptionist smiled and gestured welcomingly, please follow me. Along the way, they walked through a corridor that was dimly lit, with glass-esque walls that refracted a dazzling luster. The employees here wasn't lacking in handsome men or beautiful women, which showed that the treatment of employees wasn't bad. My mama don't like you and she likes everyone, and I never like to admit that I was wrong. When they walked to the door with the 3 words, Scarlet Kaffir Lily, written in white with a brush, the female receptionist smiled and gestured them to enter. And I've been so caught up in my job didn't see what's going on. Yang Chen fished out a $100 note from his pocket, and the female receptionist with an unsurprised face said, thank you, before accepting the note and leaving. But now I know I'm better sleeping on my own. Li Jingjing looked at Yang Chen with astonishment. Big brother Yang, is it necessary to pay $100 just for leading the way? 'Cause if you like the way you look that much, oh baby, you should go and love yourself. A place like this usually follows a Western-style hiring method. These service personnel have no pay, and only receive tips. In fact, it's only a little more than $10 in USD, and it isn't considered a lot. Yang Chen explained. I nearly forgot, big brother Yang, you're a student that returned from studying overseas. Li Jingjing couldn't care less about the pain of money anymore, and happily spoke. Yang Chen wasn't willing to stay on the topic, and dexterously opened the room's door. The moment it opened, a deafening shout transmitted out from inside the room. Wanna remain but can't remain, and that's what feels loneliest. They saw a rather short and fat man with glasses standing in front of the TV doing his utmost to shout into the microphone in his hand, with his head pointed towards the ceiling and his eyes shut, singing to his heart's content. There were already quite a number of people sitting on the sofa in the room. If added up, there were at least 8 people. After seeing Yang Chen and Li Jingjing by the door, they first stared blankly, then most of them revealed unusual smiles. Our main protagonist of the day has finally arrived. A skinny female teacher with wavy hair from using heat rollers took the initiative to call out. Immediately, everybody else present stood up and applauded. The fat teacher that was screaming like he was killing a pig a moment ago also called out, Teacher Li didn't forget to bring her boyfriend for her first party, looks like your relationship is pretty deep. Li Jingjing promptly let go of Yang Chen's hand timidly. In the dark room, her face was so red that it seemed like it was about to burst. It's not like what everybody is thinking, big brother Yang isn't my boyfriend. If you are not reading this on VOLARETRANSLATIONS, I am very hurt. Then what is he? Another male teacher laughed and asked, he can't possibly be your blood-related brother, right? Seeing Jingjing look so anxious, and unable to speak a word, Yang Chen could only take the lead and explain, Jingjing's father and I are bosom friends despite the age gap, and I have taken care of her like a big brother. Today, I coincidentally heard that everybody wanted to hold a welcome party, and that she was too shy to come to a KTV alone, and so I'm merely here to accompany her. A female teacher that dressed up nicely chuckled and said, so that is what happened, come and sit by my side handsome, Teacher Li probably wouldn't mind, right? As she said that, she winked at Li Jingjing. The moment Li Jingjing heard that, she subconsciously shook her head, no can do, big brother Yang must stay by my side. Once those words were spoken, everyone let out kind laughs. Yang Chen also helplessly looked at the flustered Li Jingjing, who blushed with shame. This girl is really skilled at making things worse. Just as the atmosphere within the room became harmonious, the door was opened once again. A man in his early 20s wearing a J-press shirt walked in. His hair was neatly combed, along with a sharply contoured face. A rough glance revealed that he had the temperament of a brave scholar. Upon seeing this person enter, all the teachers began greeting him as Department Head Zhang. The man greeted the teachers with a warm smile before looking towards Yang Chen and Li Jingjing. Upon seeing Li Jingjing covered in fashionable clothes and her long slender legs revealed by the hot pants like white jade, excitement flashed in his eyes, and he praised, Jingjing, you're really pretty today. If you dressed like this in school every day, I reckon all the teachers and students will have their eyes on you. The other teachers all agreed, and complimented how beautiful and attractive Li Jingjing's attire was. Such praise was a little exaggerated, but all women enjoyed others praising their beauty. Li Jingjing was no exception. She didn't think much of it, and timidly lowered her head to say, "Thank you." When he looked at Yang Chen, the man's eyes narrowed for a moment before he warmly stretched his hand out. "You must be the one mentioned by Jingjing earlier, Mr. Yang. I'm Zhang Shuo, Yizong's English department's head. May I know, how should I address you, and where does an elite like you work?" Yang Chen internally murmured, "Another smiling man with evil intentions," and unconcernedly went forward to shake hands. "I'm Yang Chen, you can call me whatever you like, I'm just a small employee in a company that buys breakfast and does odd jobs." Once he heard this, a light shone in Zhang Shuo's eyes, and he straightened his back. With some stubbornness and arrogance he said, "Mr. Yang need not be modest, we are still young, as long as you work hard, in the future there will definitely be a day you can succeed. Perhaps you can become someone like I, named Zhang, who had a higher starting point." "Oh right, Mr. Yang might not know of this, but my father, Mr. Zhang Meng, is the headmaster of Yizhong and the vice chief of Shanghai's Department of Education. It is by taking advantage of my father's connections that I managed to become Yizhong's English department head and vice head of the teaching department. I feel ashamed to say that other than publishing a few theses in the country's textbooks and bringing a team overseas for some interviews on a few occasions, I haven't done anything noteworthy. Perhaps in the future, Mr. Yang's achievements would even be greater than mine. Department head Zhang is being overly modest. Amongst us, who is unaware that Department head Zhang is our school, Yizhong's hope for the future, and the most impressive rising star in the academic world?" A middle-aged female teacher swiftly stated. "That's right." The skinny female teacher also chimed in. "Who knows, perhaps in a few more years Department head Zhang would become our school's headmaster. In terms of capability, who can compare with Department head Zhang?" All the teachers had actually sung a whole bunch of praises all at once, while Zhang Shuo was instead, modestly, smiling, waving his hands saying, "I don't deserve your praise." Yang Chen had truly witnessed an eye-opener, and rubbed his nose to cover his smile. "I've seen shameless people, but I've never met someone even more shameless than me. Seems like I'm not alone in this Tao. At the very least, there's this chap in front of me whose skin is thicker than the city wall." Chapter 61. Bitch, literally meaning a female dog, is a slang pejorative for a person, commonly a woman, who is belligerent, unreasonable, malicious, a control freak, rudely intrusive or aggressive. When applied to a man, bitch is a derogatory term for a subordinate. Its original use as a vulgarism, documented to the 14th century, suggested high sexual desire in a woman, comparable to a dog in heat. The range of meanings has expanded in modern usage. In a feminist context, it can indicate a strong or assertive woman. Hey aggregator site, I put in about 6 hours of effort in this chapter, and you couldn't even put in the effort to take off this text. By the way, I may have just defined your mother above this. Li Jingjing had an innocent character. After hearing everybody praise how amazing Zhang Shuo was, she went with the flow and casually spoke some good words. Once these words were spoken, Zhang Shuo felt as if he was on cloud 9. In his mind he thought that Li Jingjing really wanted to be more intimate with him to receive some benefits, and he couldn't help but feel immensely proud of himself. How can an errand boy from a small company possibly be compared with the son of an influential official like me? Zhang Shuo felt that he was overthinking things earlier. He simply didn't need to oppress Yang Chen that strongly. The more Zhang Shuo felt that way, the more he thought of being more mature and earnest, that he should convey how respectable and wise he was. So he immediately called out to everybody, "Please take a seat everyone, all expenses today will be paid by me. Zhang, you don't need to be courteous." When he looked at Li Jingjing, Zhang Shuo tenderly smiled and said, "Jingjing, you might not be familiar with this place, how about you sit by my side and I'll tell you all about it. I guarantee you will have lots of fun tonight." Ah. Li Jingjing hurriedly waved her hands, and with a smile she said, "You don't need to do that, Head Zhang, everybody can continue to have fun. I don't know how to sing and dance, I can just watch by Big Brother Yang's side." Zhang Shuo's hopes were dashed, and he felt anger welling up inside him. But he only thought of it as Li Jingjing being a shy chick, therefore he feigned a magnanimous smile. "Alright then, you may sit by Mr. Yang's side, if there's anything you want feel free to ask, you don't need to be polite." Don't need to be polite. Of course I won't be polite. If I'm polite, doesn't that mean that I'm being disrespectful to department head Zhang? Yang Chen laughed and said, how about we first order a few bottles of red wine to liven things up a bit, which will also give everybody the energy to sing. A burst of disdain flowed into Zhang Shuo's heart. He inwardly scolded this country bumpkin who only knew how to take advantage and freeload. But naturally, a few bottles of red wine was nothing in his eyes, and he casually waved his hand with a smile and said, of course that's all right, Mr. Yang, you may directly order a few bottles of whichever red wine you want. The other teachers that were seated were all elated. Although they were considered relatively well off, it was natural that when it comes to free wine, the more the merrier. Yang Chen revealed an expression of reverence, and immediately walked out the door to look for a waiter. After speaking to the waiter, he immediately returned to his seat and sat beside Li Jingjing, with a sm. 5 bottles. Zhang Shuo sneered in his heart. It wouldn't be considered a big sum even if he ordered 10 bottles. Mr. Yang is too polite. With this many people 5 bottles definitely wouldn't be enough, we should order a few more bottles later. The efficiency of the waiters in Heavenly Province was very high. After everybody chatted for a short while, the bottles of red wine placed in an ice bucket were served. When everybody looked at the 5 bottles of red wine in the bucket, they were immediately shocked. The 5 bottles were actually 98 Castel red wine from France. Anybody with a slight amount of understanding in wine would recognize this wine, a brand from Bordeaux, France. Moreover, it was one of the well-known top-class wineries. In addition, it has been aged for over 10 years. It's simply impossible for its value to not be thousands of dollars. Naturally, Zhang Shuo was the most familiar with the prices attached to these bottles of wine. He'd never thought that the red wine Yang Chen ordered was something like this, and thought he had ordered ordinary red wine that cost a little over $100 per bottle. Helplessly watching $6,000 fly out from his pocket, Zhang Shuo had the urge to puke blood. This is truly all thanks to department head Zhang. I don't even dare to imagine drinking wine like this usually. Several quick-witted teachers had caught on with Yang Chen's scheme, while sneering inwardly, and conformed by speaking words of praise. Zhang Shuo's smile was a little rigid as he waved his hand and said, it's nothing as long as everybody is happy. As of this moment, his originally high-spirited mood was now irritable, like he had been stuck in a storm. After carefully sizing up Yang Chen, who was happily chatting with several other teachers, Zhang Shuo was thinking of a way to punish this fella who didn't know his place. Yet the teachers in the room couldn't care less. They were starting to feel high, and took turns going up to sing and dance to their heart's content without the slightest similarity to a teacher with rationality. If their students saw how they looked at this moment, they might rub their eyes because of this absurd scene. Li Jingjing quietly sat on the sofa, listened, and occasionally ate a piece of fruit. Her quiet and contented expression contained a faint smile, yet she didn't participate in any singing. Zhang Shuo put his feelings back in order. Seeing Li Jingjing engrossed in listening to the others singing, he immediately had an idea, and took over a microphone and said, today's party is done to welcome our teacher Li. As your department head, I'll sing a song just for Jingjing, to convey the sincere feelings I have right now. The teachers all knew that Zhang Shuo desired Li Jingjing, hence they cooperated by applauding and cheering. Li Jingjing was at her wit's end, and fidgetily glanced at Yang Chen by her side. Seeing that Yang Chen didn't have any particular reaction, she relaxed a little. At this moment, Zhang Shuo was already engulfed in deep emotions. He entered a song into the system and said, I shall sing Absolute Infatuation, as a gift to Miss Li. To be honest, department head Yang's singing was still pretty good. Although he didn't manage to hit some of the high notes, he managed to sing the entire song, Absolute Infatuation by Li Shengjia. It was full of strong emotions. It can be assumed he'd sung it for at least 700 or 800 times. If an ordinary girl heard this, she would inevitably be touched by this. All the teachers began applauding and cheering, and Li Jingjing conformed by clapping and saying, thank you. Zhang Shuo was rather pleased with himself, but suddenly noticed that Yang Chen didn't clap, and was instead unceasingly pouring wine for himself to drink. Zhang Shuo's heart was once again enraged, and with a strange smile he said, from the beginning until now, Mr. Yang hasn't sung. Is it possible for you to sing a song and let everybody have their fill in pleasure to the ears? Young Chen's eyebrows creased. He put down the wine glass, and awkwardly smiled as he said, I think that's unnecessary, I'm not so good at singing. How can that be allowed? Everybody has sung. Whether it's good or bad is secondary, what's most important is participation. Zhang Shuo felt that he finally found a chance to humiliate Yang Chen, and immediately struck while the iron was hot by saying, once Mr. Yang has sung, we shall invite Jingjing to sing as well, what does everybody think? The teacher's food and drinks were all Zhang Shuo's money, so naturally they all agreed to this measly request from him. They all joined in to shout for Yang Chen and Li Jingjing to sing. Although Li Jingjing didn't dare to sing, she did want to hear Yang Chen's singing voice. After all, when a woman is infatuated with a man, she wants to know everything about him. How about you just sing a song, Big Brother Yang? It doesn't matter if you sing badly, let's make everybody happy. Li Jingjing couldn't bear the curiosity, and egged him on. Yang Chen no longer had a choice, he scratched his head, and received the microphone. He slowly stood up, and said, actually, I only returned half a year ago. So I've basically never heard much of the popular songs here. If I have to sing, please allow me to choose a song from another country. Yang Xian Shanghai Shihai Gui. Mr. Yang is even a returnee. Are you serious? He sure kept it well in the dark. Yo, it's not good to boast. Several teachers immediately heckled. It was obvious that they weren't convinced that this man was someone who was hiding the fact that he returned from another country. Otherwise, how could he possibly be a small company's employee? Zhang Shuo strongly felt that Yang Chen was trying to shirk away, and proudly smiled and said, it's no big deal, Mr. Yang may choose a foreign song, all of us present are English teachers, so we can still understand. That's right, that's right. All the teachers gained interest. After Yang Chen cleared his throat and chose a song on the computer, the song started playing in the background, and he humbly smiled to everybody, saying, my apologies, I don't intend to sing an English song. Next up is a song for everybody. It's a Spanish song sung by the Latin singer Enrique Iglesias, Quizás. If translated into Chinese, it should be called, perhaps. The rich Spanish charm of the song brought an easing feeling to all of the room. Yang Chen's voice possessed hoarseness that perfectly fit with the song, and he started his own rendition of it. Estás perdiendo el tiempo, pensando por lo que tú más quieres hasta cuando ya se pasan los días, yo desesperado. TL. Untouched. Everybody present practically opened their eyes wide in disbelief. Zhang Shuo even more so felt pain as if there was a chicken egg stuck in his throat. The melodious music matched with the unruly and indulgent voice, the Spanish song led everyone to be immersed in a beautiful and touching scenery. The moment the music stopped, other than Zhang Shuo, everybody applauded vigorously. Li Jingjing's eyes were even moist, happily revealing an intoxicated smile. Yang Chen was a little embarrassed, and rejected the teacher's stubborn requests for him to sing another song. He only said, singing is too tiring. This time nobody suspected that Yang Chen was afraid to be humiliated. After all, everybody present was a foreign language teacher, and knew that understanding a foreign language and being able to sing a foreign song isn't even on the same level. Usually, to check a person's standards in a foreign language, all one needs is to check that person's capability in singing a song of that foreign language, and that person's approximate standard can be deduced. Afterwards, things remained happy and fun, but Zhang Shuo, who forced himself to laugh happily, unceasingly cursed the women in Yang Chen's family. It was a pity that he didn't know that even Yang Chen himself didn't know who they were. Because they started playing rather early, paired with the fact that they still had to go to school and teach classes the next day, before it was 10 p.m., the teachers decided to return home. When they were on the way out, everybody's faces had a slight tinge of red from the alcohol, and their voices were raised considerably. Yang Chen and several male teachers all chatted warmly. Right as they were walking through a bend, in the corner of his eye he caught a glimpse of a door in one of the rooms having a familiar figure entering. Why would he be here? Li Jingjing, who always kept her attention on Yang Chen, noticed his frown, and caringly asked, what's the matter, Big Brother Yang? Oh. Yang Chen gave her a smile. It's nothing, I thought I saw someone I know, but it should be a mistake on my part. After Zhang Shuo paid the bill that totaled over $10,000 in pain, the group left Heavenly Province and walked towards the car park. Although he felt gloomy for the entire night, Zhang Shuo didn't forget his most important objective, and so he quickly walked to Li Jingjing's side, elegantly smiled and said, Jingjing, how about I send you home? I just bought a new car, and can take you for a spin in it. As he said that, Zhang Shuo pointed at the brand new silver-colored Toyota Camry. Under the street lights, it indeed looked very pretty. The teachers were all envious. This car must be over $200,000. Right now petrol is expensive, yet department head Zhang still changed to a new car. How unjust this is. Although the teachers' wages weren't low, most of them only drove brands like Ford, Volkswagen and other small cars that cost around $100,000. Li Jingjing awkwardly smiled, and softly said, Department head Zhang, I think I don't need to trouble you. I already feel very thankful to have received such hospitality today. It's better I take Big Brother Yang's car home. Big Brother Yang is very familiar with the location of my home. Zhang Shuo pretended to be curious and asked, Oh. Mr. Yang also drove here. I thought you guys took a taxi here. Where's Mr. Yang's car? Yang Chen burped. His tummy was full of fruit and wine. His capacity for liquor has already recovered, yet he still felt a little uncomfortable. In his mind he was still thinking of that figure he saw earlier. Hearing Zhang Shuo's words, he casually took out the BMW key from his pocket, and pushed the unlock button. Everybody turned their head to look, and saw a white sports car emitting luster parked in an inconspicuous spot. There was a blue and white propeller-shaped logo, causing everyone to suck in a cold breath. Oh my god, isn't that an M3? A light shone in the eyes of a teacher with some knowledge of cars as he said, This price of this car in the country is more than $300,000. In the past I saw some rich merchants' sons driving this. I never thought Mr. Yang drives a car like this too, it's even the newest model. Although the other teachers were unfamiliar with what the model name meant, they've heard of BMW, and understood what grade of a car that car was. Zhang Shuo was also shocked, and his face turned green and purplish. No matter how silly he could be, he wouldn't believe that someone who drives a BMW M3 is an ordinary company's small employee. Although he was still puzzled as to what identity Yang Chen had, at this moment he still displayed a friendly and flattering smile. Mr. Yang sure kept it well in the dark. This is truly an eye-opener for me. Damn it. This rich guy has nothing better to do than to pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger. What is he pretending to be a small employee for? Department head Zhang is the one with deep pockets. Yang Chen smiled and said, Today I've drunk enough, thank you for your hospitality, goodbye. He pulled Li Jingjing's hand as they walked to the car. The teachers all watched the white BMW start up and drive off with envy. They felt like they were dreaming, and Yang Chen's identity had also become the biggest mystery in these people's hearts. After Zhang Shuo returned to his car, he started the engine, and looked at the dazzling lights in the car. The fondness he originally felt for it was completely gone. He fiercely smacked the steering wheel, and under the darkness his scholarly face had looked a little sinister.